Hello, there is so much soccer to get to on this episode of CHGO Red Stars, which is presented by Coors Light, the official domestic beer partner of Chicago Fire FC. Chicago Choose Chill. Go to CoorsLight.com/CHGO Soccer to get Coors Light delivered straight to your door. Celebrate responsibly. Coors Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado. I'm Alex Campbell. Thanks for joining me for another episode of CHGO Red Stars, and I welcome back to the show Lesley Ryder of Gal Pal Sports. Lesley, thanks for being here at a time where things are looking up a bit in the world of the Red Stars.
Hey, fingers crossed. Don't say it too loud. Knock on wood. We're choosing hope right now.
We are choosing hope right now. We are literally at the exact halfway point of the NWSL second half between the Summer Cup break and the end of the regular season. There's a total of 10 match days. We are through 5 of them, 5 remaining. The Red Stars did not come out of summer great. They did drop 3 in a row. Louisville, they lost 3-1. Angel City lost 2-1. Orlando lost 1-0 on that banger by Marta. That left both of our mouths just agape, if I remember correctly. Then they went to Portland, got a 1-0 win, and then they won against San Diego at home over the weekend. The Louisville game was just bad. The Angel City game, it was a Sidney Leroux 90th minute winner. Orlando, they defended pretty well for most of it, but you can't be mad about losing to a team that might go invincible. Portland handed the Red Stars a goal, and the San Diego Wave are just bad. So what you said, we're hoping right now. Is that the word for it? How are you feeling? How would you describe, I guess, the mood we're in right now at this stage of things, at more or less the end of the third quarter of this season?
Yeah, I'm definitely optimistic about the way things are going. They had a really hard climb out of the international break. I think they were still figuring some things out defensively. They were trying some things out against Louisville that did not pan out. And you're putting Leilani Nesbitt out at right back, and when you got a rookie who's already balancing being new to the league, throw in a new position that she hasn't really played before, you're kind of asking her to do a lot of heavy lifting, and it didn't work out that game. And I think when we got to Angel City, we saw some improvements starting to come up, and Orlando even more so. Like it feels like it's been building a bit since they came out of the break. They, if you listen to the broadcasts, you hear nonstop, like, yes, they lost Sam Staub, and she was such an anchor to this defense, but they've been trying some things out. This team is resilient and just working through this together, and you're getting a lot of contributions in unlikely places from some new supporting players.
It's interesting. You mentioned Leilani Nesbitt's struggles against Louisville. That was, I believe, Bethany Balcer's debut for Racing Louisville, and she loves a back post run, and was pretty quickly identified which side she should be making those back post runs to. It did not go particularly well. There's kind of two sides to the coin, I think, of the way the Red Stars are playing now, which, you mentioned Sam Staub out of the season. They've added players on the attacking side of things, but it still feels like the team strategy right now is just play defense, try to grind it out. Back-to-back 1-0 wins. So the names on the team sheet are more attacking, but the strategy has somehow, it feels like, gotten even more defensive to compensate for the fact that this team is ridiculously thin at the back right now.
Yeah, I do think in the last couple of games we've started to see what the ideal version of that Red Stars attack, what it looks like. This is a team that is going to be defense first, defense second, third, fourth, fifth, and also we're going to score some goals. But I think it feels like the plan has always been we're gonna lock down on defense, and then we're gonna kill you with our speed. And I think they've added some players that are going to help with that. They've had a lot of success when they've been this like pressing aggressive team, pressive, just trying to force the other team into mistakes. And I think that's what we saw in Portland and what we saw against San Diego. We saw the Red Stars really take control and really have runs to counterattack and just capitalize on mistakes. And that's something that has been missing for most of the season. We would see the Red Stars defend, maybe clear the ball out, but then the other team would just kind of run it back. It'd be like, Man City versus Arsenal, that second half for most of the game. And I think now adding Ludmilla, adding Julia Grosso, letting Jamise Joseph grow into her confidence. I think now we're starting to see, Mal runs with the ball and she's got someone to look for down the field. And I fingers crossed, knocking on wood, I feel like we're going in a positive direction, even if the scoreline doesn't necessarily reflect it.
Yeah, the interesting thing we've seen, so it was the same lineup each of the last 2 games, and you can kind of mix and match who's playing where in what I'll call the front 3 between Swanson, Ludmilla, and Jamise Joseph. The interesting thing we've seen has been that Ali Schlegel, who's, I guess you would call her in soccer terms, a 9.5. She's somewhere between a striker and attacking midfielder. And then Julia Grosso playing as 8s. And so Schlegel and Grosso are playing ahead of B. Franklin, who, it's very funny. I saw the pass map from this game, and despite being the pivot player, despite being the most central player on the field, B. Franklin basically is not involved in build-up at all. The Red Stars are going wide to their fullbacks. They're getting the ball down the sidelines, or they're just bypassing Franklin entirely and trying to get the ball into Grosso's feet. It's been an interesting strategy to see. I mean, I've been somebody who's advocated for more Julie Bianchi, more Leilani Nesbitt in midfield, but it's interesting to see B. Franklin as this player who is basically, you're tall and strong and can win the ball back and kind of be an auxiliary center back out of possession, and then that allows the attackers to kind of do their thing. So I think it's maybe still a little too early to make too much of what this group is going to be. I think maybe next year is when we're going to get kind of the full idea of what this attacking unit is capable of. But for a team that had been so tactically rigid, boring for a lot of this season, this current setup with Schlegel and Grosso playing as like dual center mids, it's been interesting. I don't think it's the most exciting thing in the world, but it's different enough that it's been noticeable.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a team that works with what they have, and they've struggled a lot before Julia Grosso got here with just being able to hold the ball with some composure in the midfield. And I think, we haven't necessarily seen goals and assists out of Julia Grosso, but she's been able to kind of keep this very calm presence in a place where they sorely needed it.
Yeah, she hasn't made a goal contribution yet. No goals, no assists, but again, she is playing probably a little deeper than she'd ideally like to be. But to your point, it's about ball retention. It's about holding on to the ball. So she's been kind of quiet but important. Ludmilla, on the other hand, can we just marvel at the fact that Ludmilla made an appearance for the Red Stars when we're not sure she had met her teammates yet? Like, she had not trained, and she came off the bench in that Orlando game. On the one hand, I'm like, what the hell are we doing here? But on the other hand, I'm like, wow, pro athletes, they really are different.
Yeah, I mean, Ludmilla goes zoom. That's what you hope for off the bench, and especially against a team like Orlando when you're trying to get a result. I mean, you just gotta try stuff.
No tactics, just total vibes. Although again, the Red Stars defended really well for that entire game, and Marta was just like, nah, here's a laser into the bottom corner. She did score though, got her first Red Stars goal upon her first home start against San Diego, which, to kind of give you the vibes for those of you who didn't see it, who are listening, this was a goal scored by a winger / forward at the back post. The cross was sent in from the end line by a center back, and the person who probably should have been clearing the ball in this case was arguably the best center back in the world. So this was a very strange goal, but the Red Stars are going to take them how they can get them. The other tactical thing that I didn't think I was going to like, but I think I do, is is Carrie Riccaro just a center back now? Because that seems to be working.
Yeah, I think she's found a very happy home in that position. Like I mean, we've talked about her a couple of times on this podcast about just where does she fit on this team, and she has these strengths of she'll get in the middle of lanes, she'll block shots, she can make a pass, she can just get in the way and be menacing, and yeah, that sounds like a center back to me.
Yeah, no, because my fear was, wait, are we just going to move her possession oopsies from midfield to defense? And the answer is no. Now she's not really even trying to do those short combination passes, just kind of a baseball, C-ball, hit ball situation. And that works better, I guess. Looking, though, at the NWSL standings here and where Chicago fits in it, the top 4 teams are gone. Those are going to be your hosts in the opening round of the playoffs. It's not officially locked in, but we are there. Orlando is going to win the Shield, with all respect to Washington, Gotham, and KC, who theoretically are still in distance. Orlando might be about to go invincible, so that's just insane. Those other 3 teams, if you're watching on YouTube, we've got the top 10 on screen. Washington, Gotham, Kansas City, those teams will all be hosting quarterfinals on the opening weekend of the NWSL playoffs. You can book it. Then it's just a jumble. North Carolina, Red Stars, Portland, Louisville, Bay FC, Angel City. I actually realized I might have a slight mistake here because Portland came back to get a draw against Angel City last night, so they are at 28 points there. This just feels like a total mess, Lesley, in terms of trying to figure out what the bottom half of that's going to look like. I mean, on paper, if you look at, there's I'm going to forget who makes the chart, but there's somebody on NWSL Twitter who has this running chart of kind of its little dots showing where everybody is. And despite playing what feels like very different levels of soccer quality, North Carolina and the Red Stars are just kind of stuck at 5 and 6, despite everything else going on around them. So, on the one hand, you want to hope, you want to be confident. But if you're the Red Stars, we'll get to this after the break, their upcoming schedule is not super forgiving, so it feels like maybe there's not quite enough to feel great yet about where they're at.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. And shout out to Allison Gale, who makes those graphs and started doing them last year, I think, maybe the year before. But it is very interesting to look at those charts every season to see how the whimsical and maniacal stretch of the season turns into this really thrilling end of season race. And yeah, I think we're going to be in for a very exciting finish where the Red Stars still control their fate as far as it looks. North Carolina probably won't hit that 4th seed, but I mean, they got off to a really slow start this season, so it's not necessarily surprising to see them where they're at. I think for people who are a little more tuned into the season, I think the big story here is Portland falling down to 7th place and being in danger of falling out of the playoff race.
Yeah, they're just because they're such an odd team. There's something a little Red Starsy about them in that they have this superstar, amazing attacker who, if they can get her the ball, good things happen. But the problem is they can't get her the ball. I've had a take for a while now that, and I think it's now just Portland because Christine Sinclair doesn't play for Canada anymore, and it's this problem where when a superstar doesn't know when it's time to hang it up, and you have to cater your entire strategy around somebody who still wields a lot of power, Portland trying to make their midfield and the various iterations of it work over the last few years, where you have to have Christine Sinclair out there who can't really run. And then last year you had the miracle that was Sam Coffey from defensive midfield just playing through balls for Sophia Smith. And that's something that opponents seem to have adjusted to okay. Olivia Moultrie is a very promising player, but she's not at a point where she's going to run a game in NWSL by herself. They also, Becky Sauerbrunn still is playing a lot of minutes at her age. So it really feels like Portland need a refresh. Like they need somebody to come be the adult in the room more than, the many adults they have around that locker room and say, we got to hit reset here because, as emotional as it all is, at some point, somebody's got to tell the legends that, this, you can't be playing that many minutes. I mean, again, it's a young person's game. And if you're going to be I don't know for sure if they're the oldest team in NWSL by minutes played, but I think they've got to be at this stage.
I think Portland has a few problems this season. I mean, like an aging out roster is definitely one of them, but I mean, they also got off to a terrible start, and instead of firing their head coach, they kind of gave him a promotion of sorts to put him in like a more like technical front office position, and they got a new head coach, and I'm not quite sure it's working out with him either. They also lost a lot of players to free agency, to trades. They lost Morgan Weaver to an injury. I think this is just going to be one of those seasons of like you get to the offseason and there are going to be some hard questions for that front office. Just what does Karina LeBlanc want to do to turn the ship around? And Portland is a storied soccer city. They are the team as far as like NWSL history goes. Like I think they're going to have to answer to their players and answer to their fans for this result.
Number 7 in the standings, but still number 1 in the attendance numbers. Speaking of, you talked about off-season change. We're going to talk about that relative to the Red Stars after a quick break. CHGO Red Stars is brought to you and presented by Coors Light. Between work, social media, life's difficult choices, bad Chicago sports teams, stressful playoff runs in soccer, be it elsewhere, rainy days, up and down weather, when it's 90 degrees, when it should be fall and you're just sweating to death, there are so many opportunities to choose to chill. And when you embrace a chill mindset, that is the opportunity to turn that moment better with an ice cold Coors Light and make the choice to choose chill. Coors Light is mountain cold refreshment. When you make that choice to chill, that is the time to choose Coors Light. Whether you're hanging out in the parking lot before a sporting event, kicking back with friends, enjoying the outdoors as we head into this beautiful fall time of year, there are so many opportunities to choose to chill, and that's when to choose Coors Light. When the mountains turn blue, it's as cold as the Rockies. Coors Light is cold lagered, cold filtered, and cold packaged for a smoother finish. When you embrace a chill mindset, that's a good time to choose chill and crack open a Coors Light, crisp and refreshing as the Colorado Rockies. Make the most out of the times you choose to chill and choose Coors Light. Get Coors Light delivered straight to your door with Instacart by going to CoorsLight.com/CHGO Goal. Celebrate responsibly. Coors Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado. CHGO Red Stars is also brought to you by our friends at Shady Rays, who have you ready for the rest of your 2024 outdoor activities. With their quality shades built to last, they've got you covered with their premium polarized shades that won't break the bank. Shady Rays are an independent company. They have over 300,000 5-star reviews thanks to their durable frames with crystal clear optics. They are the perfect choice for all of your outdoor adventures. They've got hundreds of options, styles to choose from. You will find the perfect pair to match your style, shape, color. All of it is there at Shady Rays. I've really enjoyed being a Shady Rays customer. I really found out about them when they became CHGO partners a couple of years ago. I've taken advantage of their lost or broken guarantee with a pair of shades that I owned for a couple of years that then broke. I got a brand new pair for under $20. Also got some great offers to shop the rest of their incredible selection when I did so. So if your shades ever go missing or take that unexpected hit, you don't have to sweat it. It's the most insane protection in all of eyewear. Also, if you don't love your shades, you can exchange them for a new pair or return them worry-free within 30 days. There is no risk when you shop, and their team always has your back with personal and fast support. Exclusively for CHGO listeners, Shady Rays is giving out their best deal of the season. Head to ShadyRays.com and use code CHGO for 35% off polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself the shades rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. So Lesley, NWSL, particularly this year, but over the last couple of years, has adopted something. I know they've adopted a lot of things from Major League Soccer, but one of the nice things that I guess I should say the NWSL Players Association has borrowed is being very public about who the free agents are and getting that list out in the public ahead of time. That list has been, as far as we know now, fully completed, and we got a full look at it over the last couple of weeks, and the Red Stars have a lot of names on it. The most notable one is, of course, Alyssa Nair. She is out of contract this offseason. She has played 137 games for this team. Most notable other name on this list is Tatum Milazzo. We've also got Julia Bianchi, Sarah Griffith, Allie Cook, Cameron Biegalski, Maxi Rawl, Nadia Gomes, Sophie Jones, and Sydney Schneider, the third-string goalkeeper who's yet to make an appearance. Obviously, the big one here is Alyssa Nair. The reason for optimism I think I have here is that Boston is coming back to the league in 2026. That would be the closest to her home state of Connecticut. She's still got a lot of family out there, so it feels like a 1-year extension with the Red Stars makes sense for all parties. But if she wanted to explore her options, you certainly couldn't blame her either.
Yeah, I mean this will be her first look at free agency. So I think I know the goalkeeping pool in the NWSL is very deep. I don't know that I necessarily see her leaving for anyone but Boston. I mean, she's the captain of this team. She loves this team. She loves Chicago. I wouldn't see her leaving necessarily before that. And I'm sure even then, like going to Boston would still be a difficult decision for her.
And then when looking at the rest of this list, though, Tatum Milazzo, the hope was this year would be kind of a bounce back year for her. That has not happened, and she's a local, so it's hard to say where she would go. Maybe that's a situation where does anybody give her a strong enough offer to warrant moving away from home? Julie Bianchi, I assume, will leave because she just hasn't gotten that much playing time here. She's a Brazilian international. I assume there are probably better opportunities elsewhere. And then the rest of this kind of feels like a mixed bag of a lot of players who are new. Sarah Griffith, another one who's kind of fallen down the pecking order. Anyone else here you feel strongly that you think the Red Stars need to keep around or kind of come what may?
I mean, I look at Tatum Milazzo and I think this is going to depend on what she wants out of a team because she's been in and out of the lineup this past season, and she sees the game plan, she sees what the Red Stars are trying to achieve, and so if it does turn out that she explores the market and she finds a team who says, "Hey, we could really use you in our starting 11," I as a player, I don't know if I could turn that down.
Yeah, because again, she was so good a couple of years ago. I mean, again, can remember back to a time where Red Stars fans were clamoring for a U.S. Women's National Team call-up, and that seemed like a thing that was an inevitability. And now, just despite the fact that the Red Stars have had a lot of injuries, defensive struggles, the fact that Sam Stobbs' injury did not turn Tatum Milazzo into an every-minute player kind of says it all about where the current coaching staff puts her. Again, you don't know all that goes into a player's form, but yeah, I think that's going to be tough. I mean, Maxi Rawl, I think we've talked about this before, is another player who I just don't understand what happened here. She
would love to keep her if she wants to stay, but I think it's just been a really weird season for her.
Yeah, because she was a locked-in starter, and then she got hurt, and then she wasn't. She went from being a locked-in starter to never coming off the bench, almost like it was like it started to get to a point where it's like, is she being punished? Did she have some falling out with the coaching staff? What's going on here? And then she got hurt and totally vanished. And then before the last game, it was said, oh, she's off the injury list. And then she still hasn't been back on the bench since we saw that update. So I don't know what's going on there. Nadia Gomes is another one who looked early in the year like she was going to get a lot of minutes, then just didn't. Cam Biegalski's kind of been the reverse. She got no minutes, and then suddenly once Sam Staub got hurt, they were like, it's like they remembered she was there. Allie Cook never really got a look in, even after her not sister Ava got injured, and you kind of assumed, oh, that's just where things will go in the pecking order. So it's been an interesting offseason. We've seen the announced loan of a Moroccan international from Tottenham who, I mean, I don't know. If I'm her with 5 games to go, I don't know if I'm even taking that flight at this point. That doesn't really seem worth anybody's time. So I think maybe it's going to be interesting to see what the Red Stars do in the offseason because the indication would be it's going to be a busy one.
Yeah, I would think after this season, there will be a little bit of a conversation about building up the defensive depth. That's something that I think became abundantly clear that it's a conversation that needs to be had. They're making do now, but they're one more injury away from another disaster, and that's not a comfortable place to be. I mean, I look at this list. Sarah Griffith is one that stands out to me. I feel like she's had really solid appearances when she does get the call. So that's another one to me that's like, I feel like she'll stay if she wants to stay. But if she sees an opportunity where maybe she can get more minutes, I think that might be worth entertaining. Yeah, Julie Bianchi, I just don't know. I don't think it's been her best year when she's had her opportunities. So I don't know.
Yeah, I've always been a card-carrying member of the Sarah Griffith fan club, although I'm admittedly biased there as a Southwest Chicago suburb native, and I interviewed her at my last job. I interviewed her right when she turned pro, right with the Red Stars, because she's the latest out of the Naperville pipeline of Chicago pro soccer players. So yeah, it's kind of like Milazzo. It's, what's it going to take to convince her she should move away from home? She went to college at Purdue, so she's always kind of been a vaguely Chicago area resident. So that would be a big move for someone in their mid-20s to make. No, but I agree. She looks like she makes a positive impact anytime she plays. And despite manager change and roster turnover and everything, it hasn't really seemed to matter. Looking ahead at the Red Stars' remaining schedule, I alluded to it in the first segment that it wasn't easy. This Sunday, home, North Carolina Courage. That feels extremely important. That is 5th versus 6th in the standings. If either team gets an outright win there, it's going to feel like that's safety. And then even though it's on the road, midway next weekend, I should say, at the hapless Houston Dash on Friday, 10-4. That's on Amazon Prime. That's a must-win game, right? Because you look at those last three: Gotham, Washington, Kansas City. You can't count on those games for anything.
Yeah, it is definitely a very difficult schedule coming down the home stretch for the Red Stars. It's been this way for quite some time. I believe Allison Gale also has a chart for this too, just comparing all of the different graphs of who has the most difficult finishing schedule. And yeah, I mean, North Carolina is a very good team. They struggle on the road. A bit of a matchup with a Chicago team that struggles at home. Houston is absolutely must win. You don't want to kick someone who's down, but in this case, it's the playoffs. You got to do what you got to do. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I mean, Gotham, Washington, Kansas City is going to be a very interesting stretch. I think that's going to show us how ready is this team for a playoff push, because those are all teams that they could potentially face in a first round matchup. And they had some decent games against them in the first go around. I mean, Gotham was one where they lost in a heartbreaking Ella Stevens goal, which good for her.
You could say a lot about the narrative. That goal's there's a lot going on with that goal that we don't need to get into on this podcast. But yeah, that was a something.
Yeah, and like they had a pretty solid game against Washington their first time around, but both of these teams are in very different places right now than they were back then. And Kansas City had a couple of really weird games, but they've tightened up some things on defense. We could be looking at a scoreless draw or a 4-3 game. I don't know what to expect out of that.
Yeah, it's going to be almost unfair. Telma Chawinga is not going to win the Golden Boot, and it's going to be extremely unfair probably to her that she's maybe not going to win it because she's having a season for the ages with just recently broke somewhere like a 9 or 10 game scoring streak. But, Barbara Banda exists, and so unfortunately she's probably going to finish runner-up in that race. Yeah, it'll also be interesting to see how those teams, Gotham, DC, and Kansas City, approach their last games of the season. Because, again, they've got home field wrapped, and they ain't catching Orlando at that point. So what does that mean? But talk about being different teams. Gotham is healthy now. They also just went to the White House yesterday, so that's pretty neat. Salute to President Midge Purse. They are in different places. Kansas City looks beatable, but again, that game's the day after my birthday. That game is on November 3rd, and we're still going to be playing a regular season game, so that could be an ice bowl for all we know, talk about the 0-0 draw option, certainly where we could end up. So I think if they get a draw against North Carolina and they beat Houston, I'll feel pretty good about those things. We alluded to a bunch of other teams here. We've got a few minutes left, and we are going to hit on a couple things from across the NWSL right after one more quick break. CHGO Red Stars is brought to you by Sunnyside Cannabis Dispensary, your home for judgment-free cannabis shopping. It's a place where all kinds of visitors, new or experienced, are welcome to come explore, discover, and purchase from their wide array of high-quality products. They have everything you need to elevate your summer, elevate your fall, elevate your Chicago experience. They are a one-stop shop for all of your cannabis needs. With their expertly curated menu, over 100 strains are there to choose from, plus easy online ordering and in-store pickup. That really is kind of their signature thing. They are very helpful in store with any questions you may have, even if you just want to pop in and ask a few questions at their locations across the city or across the state of Illinois, including in Wrigleyville and in River North. If you're someone who is just starting out, they have expert guidance. They have brands you'll love, like Good News and Mindy's. Or if you're a pro, they've got you covered with that extensive menu. It is changing every week. They know you'll love Cresco and Florical's incredible quality and their consistent products. Again, super easy to order online. You then just pick up in store. So you can visit sunnyside.shop for bright buys every day, including 50% off your first 3 online purchases. That is an insane deal. 50% off your first 3 online purchases with code HICHGO at checkout to qualify. Exclusions apply. Sunnyside Cannabis Dispensary, bright buys every day, only for 21 and over or Illinois medical card holders. Also, lots of stuff going on here at CHGO. Shout out to everybody who came out to the Bears watch party against the Colts at Joe's on Weed over the weekend. Despite that very terrible football you were subjected to, the Bears still do have some awesome experiences remaining. The CHGO Bears crew, they've got that trip to London, which still does have a couple of packages available. And if you can't make that, they're taking a trip out to Arizona, linking up with our friends out at PHNX to watch on November 3rd, the day of NWSL Decision Day, the Bears take on the Arizona Cardinals. Of course, we've also got podcast live shows every team, every day. Go show some love to our White Sox guys during this very trying time. That record is coming any day now, maybe tonight, maybe tomorrow, because it is just flooding everywhere in the city right now. You can also become a CHGO diehard for premium written content at allchgo.com. You also get 20% off all events. There's dope merch for all teams in the All City store. And you get a free shirt when you become a diehard and get access to the CHGO Lounge, our members-only Discord. So go check out all of that at allchgo.com. All right, Lesley, few minutes here. Want to touch on a couple NWSL broad topics as we check in with the league at this, I mentioned, this end of the third quarter stage. This Orlando team, they're looking to go invincible. Are they maybe the best team ever in NWSL? Is Barbara Banda just that good? Is it just because Marta's playing like she's 10 years younger than she actually is? It's hard to evaluate just how good historically this team is, it feels like. Because if they go invincible, I don't think we have any choice but to call them the greatest team in league history.
Yeah, I mean, I think they have the longest unbeaten streak now. I think they can start taking claim to that title. It's been a really interesting build-up. It's been in the works for some time, and I think it's really cool to see it paying off on the table and on this incredible run. Teams that go on runs like this happen because of just the confluence of events of preparation and planning and the intangible stuff, like Marta playing like she's 20. I don't think this is something that you could necessarily see ahead of time, but maybe just having that last run at the Olympics had her a little more just keyed in even more than she usually is. And I suppose I shouldn't be surprised. I think it also helps that their defense has been outstanding. Their keeper, I think, just set the record for most clean sheets. At least with Kansas City at the beginning of the season, they were scoring a lot of goals, but they were letting them in too. So you had a chance. With this Orlando team, it feels like the wins for them are inevitable. And in their last few results, it's kind of been how it played out. You get to the 80th minute and you think, oh, maybe we'll get something here, and then they pull something else out of their bag of tricks. I think what they've done is really incredible, and it feels inevitable that they're going to finish undefeated, and knock on wood, but I think it'd be pretty cool.
Right. No, I mean, it'd be cool for the league. And then, of course, that makes them massive favorites going into the playoffs. And you mentioned Marta relative to the Olympics and coming up short in the gold medal match. Marta's going to go out with something. So it would feel like,
Yeah.
it would be if they go invincible and they win the NWSL championship, that would be a nice way for Marta to just be like, okay, bye. I've got everything I needed now. I'll see you. So, they've been incredibly impressive. Washington Spirit have continued to be a really good team despite losing Croy Bethune in allegedly throwing out a first pitch is when she tore her meniscus. Watching the video back, there's no wince or anything there, so that's an all-time weird sports injury. But Trinity Rodman is just, I mean, we knew she was good. Anyone who's watched the league knows she's good. Anybody who's a U.S. Women's National Team fan knows she's good. But she is just absolutely balling right now in D.C., playing probably the best soccer of her career right now for the Spirit.
Yeah, and she is a player who has been good since she got into the league a few years ago. And I mean, I'm sure if you ask the experts, they'll all say, yeah, no, this isn't her ceiling. She's got more to give. I think for the Washington Spirit, losing Croy Bethune was really tough. It's not fun when weird baseball injuries bleed into your sport. That's just not cool. But I think the Spirit are also missing Ulier Sarr, who would link up with Croy Bethune for amazing plays. And I think in these closer games with the Spirit, I think that is something that is a vulnerability for them. But for the most part, they've been able to pull it out just fine. So, I mean, this last game against Kansas City was probably a moment of mortality for them. I feel bad for the team that they play next. They're probably going to put a few goals on them just to feel good again. So, good luck with that.
Yeah, it's been kind of funny to see the Ashley Hatch, hey, remember me experience. It's like, oh yes, remember this Golden Boot winning striker who you were playing at the left wing all season for some odd reason that no one really understood? Oh, it turns out she's still pretty good and she can still score some goals. Who knew? Meanwhile, at the other end, Houston, they have not a problem. They have all sorts of problems. I legitimately can't remember, as a sports fan in my entire life, the game of chicken that is currently being played between coach and team there. It's like, there's the joke, oh, you can't fire me, I quit. It's whatever the opposite of that is, because, well, if you fire the coach, you have to pay them your severance. And so, but if they quit, they don't get it. And so everyone's just standing around while they stink. So that's real bad. And then you've got the Utah Royals. I kind of feel bad for Allie Sentner at this point. She's been excellent. She was good for the U.S. under-20s at the World Cup, which, talk about a place that just, you talk about the NWSL being crazy. Apparently the U20 World Cup is an alternate reality, because in the world that the U20 World Cup exists in, North Korea are the best soccer team in the world. They just won their 4th U20 World Cup. I don't understand that at all. But no, I mean, the teams at the bottom of NWSL, different causes of their problems, but there's a lot of work as things have just gotten kind of, a little better for Utah on the field, which has been nice to see, and Houston just continues to deteriorate.
Yeah, I mean, that bottom of the table was really interesting to look at, just in a sense of like teams can kind of die a little slowly down there. It's there was still hope for some of these teams. No one's necessarily eliminated just yet, but I mean, Utah had been going on a run and winning some games. Seattle was coming alive, but I mean, to make this push, you have to be able to sustain that success when you're climbing from the bottom of the table. And I mean, for Utah, losing Ellie Sentner to go play at the U20 World Cup probably put a little hitch in their plans. But those are some teams where I am intrigued to see what happens next season. Houston defies explanation right now. Like, the players are frustrated, the fans are frustrated. You're hearing broadcasters on the broadcast call them out and be like, you got to do something. You got to answer to your players. You got to answer to your fans and just be like, hey, do you want to do this? because it's reminding me a lot of the Chicago Red Stars last season, but that was a different circumstance, unless I'm missing something. That's where my mind goes.
Yeah, because the Red Stars situation was stupid, but everyone understood how it happened. Like,
yes.
And it was pretty clear, okay, the owner is holding out for money and kind of taking the team, and there was a big scandal, and it's like, okay. And in Houston, it's just like, oh, our coach vanished, and we don't know where he is, and he's refusing to quit. So, I don't know. The people who own the team, they also own the Houston Dynamo. They've got a lot of money. Just fire the guy, pay the severance, and move on with your lives. It's funny, the D3 National Championship for football this year is actually at that stadium, and so if I make another trip to that this year, maybe I can snoop around and try to figure out what exactly is going on at Shell Energy Stadium. And yeah, Seattle's weird. They basically need a whole new roster. The cherry on top was they just loaned Sofia Huerta to Olympique Lyon in France, who definitely don't own them anymore. But so Michelle Kang just signed a Seattle. I don't get that at all. It seems like that's a situation where everybody wants out of. I'll make another Red Stars metaphor. When like Casey Kruger, who's from Chicago, who her and her husband just bought a house and had a mortgage, is like, I'm gonna go now because this is I need to get out of here. Like Sofia Huerta, like just got engaged. Like her life is in Seattle. Like, and she's like, no, I'm gonna flee the country because this is so bad. And you mentioned Ali Setner, the effect on Utah. Adames, the striker in Seattle, who's kind of had a rookie emergence, also was on that U20 team, and so Seattle then had even fewer goals, and they traded Bethany Balcer, and there's a whole lot of bad down there. Like you said, no one's eliminated, but those three, I guess the teams in no man's land that we haven't mentioned are Bay FC, Angel City, who still have a shout, and then there's the San Diego Wave, who have, I don't know what they're doing. Someone save Naomi Girma. I don't know why it didn't happen this summer, although apparently, as we find out from the Ballon d'Or list, Europe doesn't know that Naomi Girma exists, so perhaps that is why none of them have come to rescue her. Because, yeah, the Red Stars took advantage. We talk about bad teams, great teams. San Diego Wave, all-time weird NWSL team this season.
Absolutely. I think there's just it's a bad energy. You've got players leaving in the middle of the season. You've got, God knows what happening off the field in their front office. I think I don't even know where to begin when it comes to fixing San Diego Wave. It's just not a great circumstance. And it's really unfortunate when you consider that they were in a playoff position. They were challenging for that last spot. And then they just fired their tenured coach. And we're like, no, thank you. So someone in there is not being serious and they need to go.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the place in the offseason I'm going to be watching most closely, because it's like, all right, something's going to go. Like, Landon Donovan will leave. They will have to hire someone else, and maybe Naomi Girma will force her way out, and then it's going to be like, okay, what are we doing here? Well, what we've been doing here is talking about NWSL and the Red Stars, and again, as we said, currently the best team in Chicago sports. That bar is hilariously low, but we will take it. Lesley Ryder of Gal Pal Sports, thanks for coming back on the show, and who knows, maybe we'll be able to talk some playoff ball here in the months and weeks to come.
Knock on wood. Thanks for having me.
Anytime. Well, that is going to do it for this episode of CHGO Red Stars. Like I did, though, on Fire, got to shout out our man behind the scenes, Joey Spathis, who is in his penultimate day of CHGO employment onto other pastures, hopefully just as green. He's been such an asset to this place. We're going to miss him. Joey, we wish you well.
Appreciate
Thanks for
that.
all you've done for these shows and for CHGO.
Appreciate it. Let's go Red Stars. Let's finish it strong.
Yeah, let's get a Chicago playoff team, please. I am Alex Campbell. I'll see you next time. This has been CHGO Red Stars. See ya.